All right, and we are on. Carmen, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm super excited to speak to you and share your message with everyone. I had a great podcast last time with Sherry, and we mentioned your DNA test, and she was very interested in learning a little bit more about it. And when I shared the podcast with other people too, they always mention what is, tell me more about the DNA test. Tell me more about what you learn about your DNA test. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for you to share with everyone all the amazing work that you've been doing for so long. I met you back in LA almost 6 years ago. We competed when I did my pro debut. We competed together at Arizona Pro. Remember that? And since then we kept in touch, which I'm so thankful to you that we did because you made me realize a lot of things that a lot of us athletes don't realize, which the importance of really being more detailed if we want to bring our best and to do this as long as you have been doing. So I will leave to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and your background.
Sure. So my name is Carmen Tocheniuk. For all the people that don't know me, I've been an athlete at heart for 30 years, competing for 25 years. Before bodybuilding, I was an athlete as a little girl doing dance, figure skating, hockey. And I was always so curious as to why one thing worked for one person, a training method or some kind of diet or off season, in season, preseason training protocols worked for say half the team, but the other half of the team kept getting injured and they were gaining weight and having, mental fog and issues and everything. So I got very curious as to what that was at a very, very young age. I'll tell you the real story actually. I got my mom. Well, my mom got us girls a little card that was in it. It was called a DentaKid card. And what it was a thumbprint of each of your children. And it got I guess, registered with the RCMP here in Edmonton or in Canada. And I was 8 years old at the time. And when we got these little cards back, my mom, she said, you carry one, I carry one, and the police have one. So if you ever get stolen, if you get lost, we can find you by this thumbprint. And I remember me and my sister putting them side by side and me saying, how can they tell the difference between us? The thumbprint looks exactly the same to the eye. And that was the first indication of understanding when I was that young to say we really are that different. Even though we eat the same, we have the same mom and dad, we have the same lifestyle, we do all these things the same, we're very individual. And that's when truly I started saying, well, how is my thumbprint different than my sister's? What is that? And that's when it started leading into the whole idea of DNA. I started studying genetics at a very young age. I started my study of genetics when I was 16 years old playing hockey for a school called Notre Dame. And that's where it really all began, was really from curiosity of not understanding why these protocols were all the same for everybody. And I just fought that whole ideal. I said that's silly. We're doing this. We're prescribing medicine the same way for everyone. We're prescribing diets the same way for everyone. We're prescribing all these things, but yet in the little writing they say might not work for you. So I knew there was an insecurity of saying, the companies, the people, the coaches, the doctors, everybody said, well, we hope it works, but we don't really know if it will because we really don't understand you, the individual.
Uh, And that's basically what happens in our sport, right? So coaches, they usually give athletes the same cookie cutter stuff, and it may work for some, it may work for others, and maybe because we already have it as the athlete mindset, we do whatever it takes, and we know if we're just burning ourselves to the ground by going to the gym and dieting really hard, something is going to happen. But is that something really your true potential, or is that something that could potentially lead to the Olympia?
Exactly. And I think in our industry, as coaches of fitness and athletic backgrounds, even as really high end health coaches, we always judge people by, are they getting results by the scale or the way they're feeling in the moment or the weigh scale? And to me, that same healthy person, I see them now getting this Alzheimer's, getting disease, getting all sorts of very, very serious diseases. So I look back and say, if they were on the right plan, they should not have been getting this stuff going on. So I think there's confusion out there of what DNA testing really is and why it's so important to understand it, because a lot of coaches brag about doing blood work and they say, oh no, we do blood work. And I say, yeah, that's really good, but these are two totally separate tests. Like DNA is about preventing disease and understanding the architecture of the individual. It's about saying, how can we support the person's weak areas of their body so we can prevent disease from showing up in that blood work? Because I always say, Houston, it's too late by that time. We could have been preventing this disease or low iron or low this or low that for 25, 40 years before it shows up in blood work. So that's where DNA testing becomes so powerful, is we can see little tiny pit holes in somebody's DNA. So we look at exactly the individual of what their mom gave them and their dad gave them. So we can see if the parents gave them good genes, one parent good, one bad, like this, or like this. Now, I call that a little pothole or a deep pothole in DNA. So if we've got a little pothole, that's where the word epigenetics comes into play, and we can turn on and off those genes through epigenetics, things like what we eat, how we sleep, how we think, the stuff we drink, the environment we're in. All of those things are deciding little factors and variables of whether or not your DNA is being supported and turning on or off. Now, a big pothole is when both mom and dad passed you a poor copy of that gene and your genotype is negative or variant or not, or we call it mutated as well. That's when we actually have to supplement that area of the circuit board or that area of your DNA, because that means it's been non-functional. It just doesn't work. It doesn't function correctly. I refer to that as a fuse box a lot, saying if you're missing a fuse in your house, guess what? That whole circuit on that fuse is not going to work. And it works similar in our bodies. So the power of understanding our own little tiny pit holes or potholes and knowing how to fill in those gaps every single day and how important it is allows us to say, where do we put our time? Where do we put our money? And where do we really put our effort, instead of burning ourselves out like crazy? You know, we talk about being athletes because you're a pro athlete, I'm a pro athlete. But I think everybody out there is almost like a pro athlete, because there's women out there dieting harder than we diet all the time. There's men out there suffering with eating disorders, addiction. There's all these people that have the same intensity that you and I have as pro athletes, struggling just as much. So it's people that, you know, have fertility issues. It's people with mental disease, addiction, weight loss, weight gain, all these issues happening, cognitive issues. So even as a child, if we have the right type of playbook for us as based on our DNA, we're going to learn better. We're going to have hand-eye coordination better. We're going to be sleeping. We're going to be recovering better. Our body is going to be firing better when we understand. You know, just because I don't have diarrhea and farts and gas from milk, sometimes that means that, you know, people would say, oh, I'm not allergic to milk because I don't get all that stuff. That is not true. Somebody could have a variant gene in that causing their DNA to not function right, causing inflammation and causing other things like ear infections or headaches or migraines or hormonal dysfunction by simply having peanuts or milk or something, or gluten. So it doesn't mean we have to be deathly allergic to something to say, okay, we're going to stop doing that. And that's, I think, kind of what we're doing as a society still, is we really are being reactive still. I hear it all the time. Even when I'm reading somebody's DNA books, like this much information, people are like, oh no, I can still have cheese or whatever because I don't get those symptoms. And that's not how we need to think. We need to start thinking about, is that cheese or is that dairy turning on our DNA, or is it turning off our DNA, downward regulation? So, you know, everybody thinks that learning DNA is very complicated and very hard, but it's really not. As a company, we've been in business for 2 decades. I was the founder of one of the very first ever genetic sequencing companies in North America for public use. And what we've really focused on is bringing a big amount of confusing science to people in a very digestible, very comprehensive, readable form. So it's as easy as saying, as a little graph, green is good, red is bad. So there's a lot
All
of more
fine.
information. But we've made
Yeah.
this where a grade 3 level of a reader could understand how to support their DNA. So other ways of supporting our DNA are through understanding what vitamins are going to work and why do certain of us need vitamins. Some of us don't really need vitamins because we can do the biochemical process called methylation by ourselves because we're not mutated in that area. So we can say, oh yeah, we're going to get all this out of our food. But other people are not in that position. Their deck of cards is not as good. So they have to play that game differently. And that's why it's so important to say, well, my grandma and grandpa did this, or I did this, or I did that. Who cares what worked for me? You know what? If I keep telling you what to eat based on what works for me, that's a huge ego, and that has to stop. I don't even care if I trained you and got you to Miss Olympia and you won the Olympia. I still would not feel satisfied without knowing that I was helping you to prevent disease for your future as an athlete and a woman. And like we have to stop as coaches, doctors, trainers, we have to stop this chaos of saying, look at my athletes, look at my clients before and after, look how much weight they lost. We're way too smart for that. We're way too advanced for that now. The Human Genome Project is the biggest finding in world history. We are so lucky to be living in this time to have this information available. The ideals, the mentality of people really do need to start changing, because those days of saying my client lost 10 pounds, look at me, I'm the best trainer in the world, has to stop. It really does.
You're so right. You're so right. And I think it was a big eye opening for me because I did my DNA test with you. And there were a lot of things that I found out that I didn't know, and a lot of things that I could kind of guess because of Dom working with me and doing things differently than I ever did in every single preparation for a bodybuilding competition, and working, but still deep inside of me wondering, okay, I am changing my physique, and because I do want to have I'm not the kind of bodybuilder that doesn't see the tomorrow outside the bodybuilding industry. Quite the opposite. I have a lot of inspirations to do a lot of things outside bodybuilding, and it makes me excited.
Mhm.
So if I ever think, okay, so for example, and I've spoke to athletes before where they don't have much plans of what's going to happen after. They don't really think or talk about it because all that they can see it's the now. It's one more show. It's going to the Olympia and let's go. It's all or nothing. And for me, it's like, oh, I'm so excited this year. Hopefully, I'm going to go to the Olympia and I'm going to have a lot of fun and enjoy and see my physique to another level. But I'm so excited next year that I have all these plans to do with my business and I want to be well fed and thinking clearly so I can do all of the things that I have to put on pause right now because I am on prep.
Yeah,
So,
I've never had to put anything on pause because of prep, other than maybe going on a big vacation and all inclusive or something. But Amanda, there's a few things that you said that I want to hit on. Is one about you. So I want to just step back for the audience and just say how to do a DNA test in the first place. They can get a DNA test through you at your clinic. They can reach out to me and say they saw this podcast. It's a simple swab that goes on the inside of your cheek, mailed anywhere in the world. And that's why we could be helping people anywhere very, very simply. It takes 2 to 4 weeks to get the information back. Second of all, as a coach, I'm very proud of you and Dom for taking this on, because so many coaches I've talked to over around the world for 2 decades, they just kind of like hum and haw it like it's going to be more work for them. And I'm like, you guys are charging thousands of dollars for diets, and you're saying it's customized, but yet you won't take 5 minutes to look at somebody's DNA report to do a better job, do more better due diligence, and give the confidence to the client of why you're recommending these things, right? So that's why I'm super proud of you guys for taking the time to just look at what I'm doing and doing that. It gives me a lot of respect for you as coaches and leaders in the industry, because people that don't do that, I just think are just not doing their clients any favors. Thirdly is going to your DNA now. There's one thing I remember about your DNA just off the top of my head, and that was about take Dom, your coach, said, Amanda, I want you taking these methylated B vitamins, because he probably knew from his experience they're gonna be important. But then you weren't taking them. You weren't like, you're like, yeah, I don't know if they're working, not working. I don't want to spend my money on that. I'd rather go buy some new workout pants today than spend this money on vitamins. Because Dom, like, how does he really know that I should be taking these vitamins? Even though I trust him and he's a good coach and he's a top coach, like, really, you were not buying into the fact that you needed these vitamins for other reasons. So then when you got the DNA test, I remember the aha moment for you, because in your DNA test, it said the concrete evidence of Amanda needs methylated B vitamins, not just for bodybuilding, not just for today, but for her lifetime. And it's something that is going to help change her life in ways that she doesn't even know yet. So yes, Dom was right without knowing the DNA test even. But the fact of the matter is people, they start this program, they might do it for a couple months and then they stop taking the vitamins. So if you never got your DNA tested with us, you would have stopped those vitamins, or you wouldn't have been bought into the fact that maybe those things are the things that are going to really create the longevity for you to support your DNA, to prevent disease and illness for your future. make you a very optimal athlete, because we always think we're going to be our best because we want to show and we're here and we're there, we're improving. But just imagine how much better you actually can be. You don't even know your own potential because your DNA is only going to regulate so good by what we're doing old school way.
I think that for the audience, if anybody's listening who are competing right now, which I'm sure I'm going to share with a lot of competitors, active competitors now, it's the same as when they hear, okay, if you take this particular, powder, let's I don't know, creatine, it's going to give you a little bit more endurance and pumps in the gym or whatever. We do anything when it comes to, oh, better performance, better performance, better performance, which that's basically what the DNA, along with so many other benefits, including longevity and as a human and being there, especially if you have so many other things going on outside bodybuilding. But why not really find out what's going to work for you, that's going to make you truly improve in the gym and perhaps even diet better? Because I know there are a lot of things that can help us manipulate a little bit of this yo-yo feeling of like feeling completely, depleted or so hungry because you're not potentially eating the right micronutrients, like I wasn't when I was doing a hardcore ketogenic diet. And then through my DNA test, you saw that I do so well with carbohydrates. It's like, duh, But there was a time in bodybuilding, and I think that I catch that tail end of a lot of coaches exploring ketogenic diets for athletes.
Yeah, why not take the least pathway of resistance, you guys? Like, as a female professional athlete, I've been a pro bodybuilder for 20 years now. And I still feel like I carry feminine parts. I feel like I can be feminine and run and pioneer. I mean, you guys got to know that everybody says I started a business, but that business has like been done over and over and over again. Nobody in the world had a DNA business. We had to actually create, pioneer, invent, and make millions of dollars of mistakes to be open today. Like, we truly have committed 100%. So, and I was competing this entire time. So I look at other athletes and I say, you are such a pussy. You barely have a job and you can't, like, I mean, and not to compare apples to apples, but I mean, they think they have it so hard. And I'm like, I'm looking and saying, you guys, you know what? You should try inventing the first car that nobody ever seen before and see how well you do then. You know what? I'm living proof that there is better ways to do things. And that's why I'm encouraging every single person to start taking better responsibility for themselves, learning their DNA, learning. The answers are within us. But we keep asking all these coaches and everybody for more information, what works for them. It's kind of an ego thing. I'm like, I don't like, I would never tell somebody to what to eat without learning their DNA ever. And I want to share, guys, like, I owned a gym when I was very young. I had 1,200 members. I was making very good money at a young age. And I put everything off. When I got the opportunity to invest and be part of the DNA company, 16 partners at the time, I put a line in the sand and I said, I am not training anybody without knowing your DNA first. Do you know how much that hurt my pocket, that my income? I went from making $50,000 a month to zero for years. I had to go get a waitressing job. I had to go do all this side hustle to keep involved with the DNA company. So you talk about commitment, you talk about consistency, you talk about all these things as being pro athletes, but then I look at what they're really doing and I just don't see it. But yet, get this. They're all the leaders in the industry, okay? They're the ones leading the world and inspiring the world to get healthy when they're the worst off healthy people ever. It's like, what do they think health really is? They don't even want to buy a $375 DNA test. I mean, if you could learn one thing out of this DNA report for 375, just whether or not you need a high protein diet or not, or whether vitamin E could save your life or not, whether you need methylation vitamins, like one thing, that is worth it. you know?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I hate to sound like a little aggressive in this stuff, you guys, but it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. And if you're in the bodybuilding arena, start being a leader. Start actually saying, what is health? How do we actually learn about individual health? Stop the bullshit of saying we customize diets and we do this and we do that when there's all this information available to be better. When you learn better, you do better. So I'm here to say, now I'm telling you guys, there's stuff out here to be better. So you have no more excuses to stop the nonsense. And I just can't believe how our industry has no regulation, no protocols, no nothing. It's just this big wild, wild west of social media and who can have a popularity contest. But yet our industry is very impactful on what the public does. You know what I mean? Like, how many people will go to this coach and say, "Oh, should I do this DNA test?" And if they don't do the DNA test, it's like thousands of people don't do it because that one coach had an opinion about it because they were just being lazy. Like, to me, the more information that a coach or somebody can have about themselves, again, the answers are within us. We just have to learn them and then search out. Yes, we need coaches. Yes, we need great coaches. We need people doing blood work. We need people doing scans. We need people doing DNA testing. We need it all. But for
Yeah,
people
I
to
agree
not
100%.
be starting, yeah, for when they're not starting with
Yeah.
understanding the architecture of the client first, I just say, like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, it's time to start doing this. And I see all my friends, pro bodybuilders, girls especially, that are humming and hawing about a DNA test still, and I just don't understand what they're waiting for. I
Yeah.
don't get
No,
it.
you are right. You're absolutely right because going back to something you said that really stuck to me too is that it's so unfortunate that there are so many coaches that are looking for the online, you know, view, the online status. I have 100 pro cards, 50 Olympias, 30 this, 50 that. But I look when I look at somebody that is really looking for that kind of marketing, it makes me wonder, okay, so how really detailed are you gonna be with your clients when you are so overwhelmed with clients, when you are trying to be at 10 different places at the same time? Hopefully you do have a team. A lot of them don't because I know they don't. They just work remotely with so many other people, but they don't really have a team because I would guess if they did, they would announce to be also honest. Hey, you're working with me, but there are three, four, five other coaches overseeing your plan as well.
Mhm.
Because I think that's one of the things is happening now. So the coaches are just really piling a bunch of names of professional bodybuilders and because they don't have the time, because it takes time, especially if they are Olympians, they are sometimes giving them protocols that they don't even remember anymore. Which
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to mention names, but that is somebody that was on X, Y, and Z. And because she's the kind of person that, hey, you tell me to jump and I'll ask how high, she did everything she was asked because that's the reason why she had a coach in the first place. She trusted that person to oversee what she was doing, and she thought that it would be okay for her to be doing X, Y, and Z for, for 10, 12 months or in the case a year. So I understand that sometimes we needed to, I mean, not sometimes, we do need to take responsibility of the things we are doing and say, hey, excuse me, is this okay? But
Mhm.
some people just don't know.
Yeah.
They think it's just like, okay, you tell me to take vitamin B, I'll take vitamin D every day. Or if you take me to take, if you tell me to take this for the show, so this is what I have to take, not knowing that that's going to cause a lot of consequences forever.
Mhm.
And now going back to what you were saying, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is because they're busy. So can you imagine a coach that is promoting a business with hundreds of athletes, which is a great for the business, but if they don't have a team, how detailed are they going to be? And do you think that they're really going to take the time to take a DNA test to be even more proactive towards the athlete's outcome and longevity and health?
Yeah. Well, the one thing is it really, and that's the thing about what we're talking is it doesn't even take that much time. Like, I mean, if somebody buys a DNA test through you or I, we can give that coach just an outline and say, okay, this client needs these things, boom, 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 base their diet on
I,
a low protein diet, and
and the
just give,
magic part,
yeah.
the magic too, and the beauty of why the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast too is that I am going to put a link here, and I'm gonna open the doors for anybody to reach out to me or to you on Instagram or email. And even if a coach doesn't ask or doesn't know, doesn't want to know, the person, I mean, we're dealing with the dope here. We're talking about adults. We're talking about 30, 35, 40, 40 plus year old people who are still actively competing. So they can go ahead and do themselves because they're going to be able to read everything because what you wrote, I mean, I can testify because what I saw on my test, I was able to understand everything. It's so easy for me to understand because you break it down exactly what I should be taking, what I should avoid, or things that I should pay attention to. So
Yeah.
that's something that I would invite every athlete to do it on themselves, like to do themselves. Like there is no, excuse me, can I do it, coach? Like, no, it's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like you always keep saying it, there's more to life than just bodybuilding. Like you might want to have a healthy baby at some time. For you to pass on the genes, if you and Dom want to have a baby, the more your DNA is turned on and his DNA is active and turned on when you guys conceive, you're gonna make a way more healthy baby. So people, again, they wait till they're pregnant and then they say, "Oh, let's get healthy." I'm like, that's too late. The baby's made with that DNA that you guys did when you were unhealthy. So anyways, this is also some other testing. It's for pharmacy, so pharmacogenetics. It tells you how you're saying to the audience of how easy it is to read. Hey, Carmen, don't ever take these drugs. Carmen, don't use these drugs. And if you need an antidepressant or you need anything, it's like, hey, don't take this drug, don't take that one. But here's a whole list of better drugs for you to use. Things like Novadex. So this is a bodybuilding podcast. So a lot of athletes are using Novadex. You like for me, it gives me a big risk of ovarian cancer, you guys. Like, hello. Like spend the 300 and some dollars and find out if you're taking the right anti-estrogens in the first place, because that one thing could cause your death. So like that's how easy this report is to read. There's no doctor needed. There's no big scientist to understand this. It's like it's very cut and dry. It's black and white. So people that think
Tell
they
me
have
a
to
little bit more about
about this test, yeah. Sorry, you
no,
cut
no,
out.
about Novodex.
Novadex. So Novadex is it's an anti-estrogen that a lot of athletes take, usually 2 weeks, or some girls
Hmm.
I know 10 years ago were taking all year round because it was keeping the fat low. And that is a drug that is very controversial because in 10 years, that might be the one that's making the ovarian cancer to come. So it is a lot of times they use it as a breast cancer drug. And then the result, though, is even if somebody's listening to this and you have breast cancer, find out what drugs are going to be good for you or not. Find out if chemotherapy is going to work for you or not, or if there's a little bit of a gray zone there. We have to start being way more proactive in our decisions, even as much as an aspirin or a Tylenol or an autoimmune drug or like methotrexate or CBD or THC. Like all those things are in the testing so people can learn, is there a better drug for me if I have to take one? Just like our other reports that you know very well. Things like, should I be having a low protein or high protein diet or high fat or low fat? And once again, I want to say this a few times throughout this podcast is we have to stop judging whether or not we're on the best program by how we look. Because we know lots of very unhealthy people that look great. Even outside of bodybuilding, you see the triathlon guy that ran every day in the small town and he died, right? Because again, that's how simple it is to read. So that's where I think it's so important for us to just showcase that you don't need to be a scientist, Amanda, as a coach. This is just going to be like empowering you with knowledge. Give you, the coach and Dom, more confidence to what you're saying to your clients. It's going to give your clients the more confidence that they're on the right plan. So they don't have to keep guessing and all this trial and error. And I don't think we really understood before the power of food, the power of these drugs we're taking, like this immunological drug for, say, this or methotrexate for that. My mother was on the wrong drug her whole life. Methotrexate, my mom was born with rheumatoid arthritis, you guys, and that drug is what made my mother go blind. If we would have had this information 40 years ago, my mom would have been on the right drug and probably could have seen just fine. So that is the side effect. The
I'm
drug at
sorry.
the time worked. So everybody's like, yay, the drug's working. But on the backside, it's making her go blind. So that is just like another example outside of bodybuilding that we can say, like, Manda, you and Dom are inspiring all the bodybuilders, yes, but you're also inspiring thousands of people that don't bodybuild at the same time. And that's why,
I would say
yeah.
actually that's the majority of. that I touch lives at the clinic because it's amazing the things that people say like I'm changing my life because of your guidance. And in my mind, I think that's one of the reasons why I keep doing I mean, I love bodybuilding in general, but I love that to be somebody that is doing what I'm asking them to do, right? Go to the gym often, make sure that you are spending time outside, you're in the sun, you're getting some sunlight, make sure that you are eating correctly, make sure. So, all of those things I'm so inspired to keep doing myself because I'm seeing other people. In the bodybuilding industry, I mean, of course, I hope that I'm inspiring a lot of people in bodybuilding too, but you know how it is, especially with women, right? There is a lot of like, oh, I'm better, I'm this, I'm that, but I never felt that way. Honestly, I think that bodybuilding is truly a sport that you only compete against yourself.
Yeah, of course it is. And I want to encourage all the people in our industry to start being better leaders than they are because the world's watching us. And we don't have a big union. We don't have a big regulatory board. I call it the wild, wild west. So I want to encourage others that are listening that are in a position of coaching to just do better and start really taking this seriously because there's thousands of people watching, and sometimes you don't really know who you're inspiring, and who you're, I guess, guiding. They're watching what you're doing and they're listening to what you're doing. And if the message
Yeah.
is always just to look better and lose weight, I mean, I want to say that as a regular coach, without all the scientific background, you can be life changing for people now with information like a DNA tool because it's going to help to actually prevent disease. And without that, we've never been able to do that before. We all try very hard before and do our best, but this is just another tool to really truly have a deeper look at somebody's architecture to create longevity and lessen pain, disease, and illness. Being sexy, being fit, all this stuff is just the result anyways. So if all of us really start to more focus on the actual health of the person and not so much of how they look right away. I mean, I know it's a hard sell when, I'm sitting here saying let's start preventing disease. It's hard to get people motivated before there's a problem. It's hard to get people excited about something until the car crash happens and then they have no choice. But that's where, if there was some way that we could learn how to really motivate prevention, that's where this is at.
But I think there is a big shift going on now. Maybe because of the information that is out there, more people doing podcasts just like this one, more people really going away from mainstream media and going more into YouTube or things like that, because there are a lot of people here that go to the clinic and they start a consultation with me talking about, I watched Peter Attia talk about this and this. Oh, I watched Dr. Gabrielle talk about this and this. I watched Huberman talking about this and this. So they are looking for this answers because there are a lot of things happening, right? So either even with the young kids now, unfortunately, they're seeing their parents, right? They're seeing their parents dealing with diabetes or cancer or whatever the case may be. So, or they're hearing more and more things of their love, their somebody that they look up to, an artist that is battling this or that disease. So I feel like there is a movement that is being a little bit more proactive.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And I'm so thankful for it because I am seeing it. I mean, for 19 years, you guys, our business was in the hole big time. This is the first year we've seen a little bit of movement happen. So I am seeing it. And I do think you're right about all the people talking about different things. People are being inspired differently and they are looking for the answers. And that's what I guess we're here to say. Like we can even go on to another DNA test too, like this one here is a skin DNA test. So all the girls and guys out there listening, we put so much money on our skin. Why not learn what is the best thing to be doing for your skin topically, internally, and professional treatments? So like our recommendations can help to prevent skin problems rather than waiting. Because I go into a skin spa and they analyze your skin at the spot and they say, oh, your skin's like this, so let's do that treatment. So again, they're still being reactive they're being reactive to what the problem is, not to prevent as much. So when you learn your skin DNA, you could be like, what kind of topical treatment should I be doing? What kind of vitamin should I do for my skin? What kind of professional treatment should I be spending my money on? Because I mean, skin products and treatments are very expensive. So why not just take this test? It's like $200 and you say, okay, now I know what to be doing and where to be putting my effort and my time and my money. So again, very simple to read. And I think that's something else like for bodybuilders watching this show is a lot of us want nice skin because we're like, about a lot of how we look.
Yeah, stage and on camera, pictures, yeah. And I think it would be amazing for, I mean, for everyone, including the guys, but women, because bodybuilding is not the most friendly sport for your skin. I would say sports in general, because, it's just exhaustion and losing collagen and all of that. So it would be amazing if we are a little bit more proactive, because there are things that will change drastically. And when you get on stage, you just don't glow.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very true. So, there's so much more we could talk about. So, what else do you want to talk about as far as like maybe, um, I guess, maybe more about your
I mean,
DNA or what do you think?
yeah, definitely. I think that we can talk a little bit more about some of the findings that we had on my DNA that's going to help me in bodybuilding. That changed a lot. I mean, I can tell myself, like, I have been doing a lot of things that changed. I have been feeling great this prep so far. Of course, I'm still the exhaustion, because I do things a little bit differently. I have to go to the clinic every day and my schedule get very tight. So I tend to be pretty tired. Even if I am 10 weeks out, I'm already feeling it. But that is a difference now. It's just okay, I'm tired, but my mind's still there. Like, my body's just okay. I just need a break. I need a massage or a sauna. But it's not like that feeling that there is something wrong, which I think we all been there before.
Right.
And even though we feel that way, we just keep pushing.
Yeah. The
So
pressure,
I
the pressure of bodybuilding is insane. When we say we're doing a show, we will do anything to get to that show, right? It's very intense, but
anything. But one thing that I also want to, before we dive a little bit into some of the results that I had, I would like for you to talk to everyone about. I remember when we had a consultation for my DNA. You mentioned the Alzheimer's part of the test, which is also it is the brain function part of the
mhm.
test. And due to some findings on mine in particular, you would never allowed, let's say if I was a little girl and I did the DNA test, which kids can do the DNA test too, you told me that. In my particular brain function, I would not be somebody that would ever be doing boxing or martial arts or anything that would cause any kind of trauma to my head because of my genes. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you have in your DNA, you have Alzheimer's, but you also have a concussion risk for healing and for the ability to heal normally. So that really intensifies the risk of getting early onset Alzheimer's. So for somebody who's going into like some high intensity sport of any kind where their head could really get bonked around, I would just be very cautious. I mean, I would not want to be a dream killer and say, Amanda, you cannot be a pro boxer because maybe that's what you want to do. But what at least you know now that you have this propensity to early onset Alzheimer's and from a head risk injury and things like this, that maybe you could do some other kinds of training and maybe not go into boxing, but maybe you could train and be a boxing coach. Or maybe if you were on a team of some kind, you could play a different position of the team so that you weren't at such a high risk of getting the head injury, the head injury, the head injury. And the biggest thing is to for people to have an awareness so they're not 60 years old saying, but if only I know and I would have made a different decision. So you could still be a pro boxer, but at least you know what the risk is going to be. So maybe you do all the things in your life, like till you're 60 or 50, because you know there's a high risk of this coming. Or you can take other supplements and products to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia. But more so, guys, is being on the right diet because that is what is causing a lot of this Alzheimer's to go even worse. Is to say, what kind of diet, what kind of supplements, how can I do this instead of just looking good. I want to be on the right diet now. So maybe Amanda, maybe your new goal is not winning bodybuilding competitions. I want to diet to not get Alzheimer's. I want to vitamins so I don't get Alzheimer's. I want to be taking care of my brain health. So, and maybe in the future we're going to come up with new findings of cures for things like this or other vitamins that work really well. But at least you know that that's on your top radar, that if you do accidentally get a little head bump and you snap your neck, you get a head injury, you don't have to actually hit your head to get a head concussion. You just, because it's the brain getting it inside, is, maybe that's when you say, okay, what else can I do to recover from this little head concussion? Should I be doing hyperbaric therapy? Should I be going to see Dr. Amen or one of these big, great people out there that know head concussions so well? Should I be spending my money on extra protocols to make sure I heal better? Should I be taking more time off work? And those are all the things that you would be able to manage in your finances and your decision-making process instead of sitting there saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should take more time or this or that. So it gives you a better understanding of how to manage something like that.
Yeah,
And it doesn't mean that you're going to have Alzheimer's. It just means you're at a high risk if you choose all these wrong decisions, like how you're playing your game of life with these cards today, like maybe the wrong medications you're on, maybe the wrong vitamins or the miscalculation of vitamins or this or that. Those are all like, variables as to what is going to cause the Alzheimer's down the road. I know it's kind of scary. I have very similar genes to you in that fashion. I did play hockey and I did play baseball and I did play a lot of sports with head injury. I have been in two almost tragic car accidents with major head injury. So that is on my radar is how does Carmen prevent Alzheimer's and early onset dementia as well? And so yeah, I understand the kind of I guess the scariness of it, but I also understand how empowering it is for me to know this now because I don't play hockey anymore. I don't do those things. I don't get talked into doing some crazy jet skiing thing that I could hit my head on, like
yeah,
just say I'm not
yeah,
interested in doing that. And so
yeah.
it's very empowering at the same time. So some people get this information and they crumble because they get scared and they say, I wish I didn't know. But, it depends on the personality of the person. I want to know. I want to know what can I do to be better? What can I do to prevent disease? Because then I can make the better decision for myself today and not say, oh, I wish I would have known. And that's really what this is doing. It's really helping people to just make better insightful decisions. And I go back to diet again because now look at this. I was just a regular trainer young too, you guys. Like I started off being a trainer in the gym, buying the gym, and then getting into genetics. But every trainer can be so empowered. Every individual can be so empowered. Like, are you serious? We can empower ourselves to prevent Alzheimer's now? Like, really? We can empower ourselves to really prevent disease? Yes, we can. And that's how powerful diet is. Every single thing you put in your mouth is going to help you do nothing for you or harm you. So it's either firing up your DNA to regulate better or firing it to deregulate. So,
Yeah,
and that's
definitely.
that's really what it is.
And it's crazy because I always think about what you told me in terms of choosing even what sport to go to if you really want to prevent any issues. Like you said, you don't want to be a dream killer, but if a person really wants to have longevity and have, a long, healthy life. For example, I see a lot of, and I do have a dear friend of mine who is actually one of the first women to participate the slap.
Yeah.
And always, yeah, she was my client with Dom, and she's a champion now. But to me, I always think about it. I'm like, do they take their DNA test to know if they can do this?
Yeah, and some people don't care. There was a study a long time ago. I'm sure you probably know about it, but some people, if there's a red pill and a blue pill, and you say, will you take the blue pill to live a long, healthy life? Or do you want the red pill to take 10 years off your life and do what you want to do? Most people, 90% of people take the red pill and they don't care if they die 10 years younger. So, I mean, it's all in our own decisions, right? But at least we know, we can say, like, we're going down this road of life and we have a little map. And if we go this way, it's going to take us longer. And if we go that way, it's going to take us shorter. It's the same, it's like a GPS.
Let's say that in a particular test, somebody shouldn't be, I mean, not that they shouldn't be, potentially wouldn't be a great choice to be a boxer, but he or she decides to be. She or he can still do all the things that will help them.
That's right.
If it is being the ring, the most, like dangerous So then be it. But then outside, they're taking their supplements, they're eating well, they are doing all the things that the test is advising them to do. So then we might cut that percentage.
Absolutely. That's the thing. If you, for example, I remember playing hockey at these high levels and we are eating white bread, cheese whiz sandwiches before a game. That's like slowing your hand-eye coordination down. With your head down, you get a head concussion. If we didn't eat the cheese sandwich and all this stuff to slow our cognitive down, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Like little tiny things can make a big difference. And that goes for bodybuilding too. Let's talk about we test stroke risk, we test cardiovascular disease. We test all these things for bodybuilders and inflammatory and such. At least they know that, they're not for bodybuilders. There's some bodybuilders that if they have 100% stroke risk and they have this and this, at least they can say how hard they're going to drive things, or maybe they have to do all these other things like you're talking about to try to manage that level of impact of hardness that we're doing to the body. Whereas like other people might just say, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this bodybuilding thing. It's too high risk. And I mean, I just want to be healthy now. So it really is empowering to know either way. And at least, and that's in our industry, we've lost some people to some things, and I wish that they would have just maybe they wanted to know, and maybe they just didn't know this existed, that they could have made some better drug choice, whether what kind of steroids and hormones and things like that they're using. They could have went at things a little different.
I can guarantee that if Sean Roden would know anything related to his, potentially danger of having the heart attack that he had that took him away. And if somebody had said, would you take all these measurements and potentially retire like he was already, away from the stage anyway, but you would be here for your little girl because his little girl was everything to him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't think twice. He wouldn't think twice. I knew because he was a friend of mine, and he wouldn't think twice.
Sean Roden is one that I met way back then and kept very in touch with 2 weeks before he passed away. Even I was still talked to Sean a lot, and I bugged him for years to get the DNA test done, and I just could not convince him of how important it is. Like he just didn't. He never ever got it, and I even offered it to him for free. I offered it to send it to him. I said, "This is really important to do." And I don't know if it's because I'm bodybuilder too, or because I'm female, or why people don't take it as serious. But he is one that I wish that like crazy that he would have just got the test to know. Maybe nothing would have showed up. Maybe it would have. We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. But he is one I often think about because I tried to inspire him to learn the DNA. I wanted him to promote the DNA too. I wanted him to be on board with us because we needed a hand at the time to get the word out to all these people that it's very important. And he kept saying, yeah, 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 it's so important. I'll do it at some point. But it was not a priority. And that's where I want people to take this more like a priority because it should be a priority. We have maps for everything. We don't even drive down the road without Google Maps now. We take directions in every part of our life, and yet here's a DNA test to give you directions for yourself, and people are dropping the ball on it. So
Yeah, you're 100% right. And like I said, there are so many people out there that I can think about that would benefit and would have avoided so many things that now, not to say that we're not complaining at all, but we have some cases with our clients right now in Best Build, not the clinic, but for bodybuilding, that we are really breaking our heads trying to figure things out with these people that did things so careless, and they come to Dom because Dom is known to fix, what a lot of coaches out there break, and not necessarily blame on them, but you know what I mean. Sometimes we have to be a little bit rush and say harsh and say it might not be a good idea for you to compete now, because if you don't fix the engine, it's like there is no single Formula One driver that would put their car on the race if they knew that the engine is broken. And we bodybuilders, we try to do that all the time. It's like, oh my, I have gut issues, but let's try one more time. It's not gonna work, buddy.
Yeah. I know. I wonder why I don't know why it's so I mean, I was in the position like that way long time ago before DNA testing was even available. I just felt so much pressure to compete and not take the time to really, I don't know why we, yeah, like it takes a, I guess, a certain type of personality to be a bodybuilder in the first place. It's like that do or die mentality. It's like we just won't, it's like you just will not give up on it, but I think it's important to start just being a little more smarter about how we do things. Like, for example, I know, like, I can talk about Dave Palumbo because he's a big supporter of ours in DNA right from the beginning. And he always tried doing other protocols like training twice a week, legs, and training 3 times a week, this or that to grow. And it just would not work for him because that's not his DNA. So like he could have like eliminated a lot of that trial and error along the way, just knowing that, this works. So after a while, a guy like Dave Palumbo figured it out and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what works for me. But, um, how many years did he waste trying to figure it out? And would he still be so confident today? Because he would still be wondering, well, maybe if I did it just a little more this way. The DNA test gives Dave 100% confidence. This is how I should be training. No ifs, ands, or buts. This is how my body's going to respond better. This is how I'm going to heal better. This is the least pathway of resistance to create longevity for myself. And Dave wanted to compete till he was 40, but I think he retired like 5 years early because if he knew it was so hard on his body. So if we had the DNA test back then, I just think about cases like this. Would Dave have been a way better bodybuilder? Could he have bodybuilded till he was 40 when he planned on going till? And other people too, like I look at like say Sean Ray's DNA or like some of these other greats where I know their DNA, I've worked with them, and I just say, yeah, they made the right decision retiring. They did it right. Or, it helps to seal the deal of their decision of when they retire too, because of maybe some risks that they would have carried in that. So they don't have to keep wondering, should I have continued this bodybuilding thing or not? And with bodybuilding being so intense and so intense, I think we need to take as many tools and as many things about what we can in our tool belt to be the best we can. And once again, because we are the inspiration for the rest of the fitness and health industry now, like we want to create longevity, we want to be healthy. And on the inside, we're all saying, oh my God, we're so unhealthy as bodybuilders, but we're trying to promote health. Like, what a conundrum that is. Like, that is like so I'm here because I'm a true athlete at heart, you guys. I love bodybuilding. I still compete. I love athletics and I'm trying to get our athletic industry just to be a little more cautious and a little more due diligence. And we're going to keep learning. Like, we started this DNA company with 3 genes. That's it. We're like, it was so much money to test one person's DNA, 3 genes. And I just said, I'm all in. This is the direction we have to go. I even have some companies like the IFPA, who Dr. Jim Bell, he's the owner of the IFPA. He certified over 350,000 trainers around the world. He started, taking our DNA. We have a DNA certification. He put that into his program. I'm actually going to try to get him on a podcast here soon talking about it because even he has a hard time convincing his trainers to do DNA. He's the king of it. He's the king of education. And so
Yeah,
he's saying it should be protocol. You know what I mean? Even,
absolutely.
we've had a hard time, but even some people in the industry of this kind of position this man has also had a hard time saying, how do we get trainers more involved in actually looking at this? Like, what is it about it that we have to do to get people to just look at the roadmap of this person a little bit better? And yeah, like like I
Yeah.
say it.
Before we go, I do want to mention to everybody out there is that Carmen does provide coaching for coaches who want to use DNA for their clients. So you can either purchase the DNA test for yourself, and I'm gonna give you guys the link, or you can reach out to me or her and you can do on yourself and have all the answers that you need because you receive PDFs of every single part. It's either the diet or exercise or brain function. It's very easy to read. But also for coaches out there, if you want to start to introduce that to your clientele, you can too, which I think is really cool to mention.
And that's really good, Amanda, that you mentioned that because that is
Like it's not like you are asking the coaches to say just reach out to Carmen
Yeah.
and take the test and good luck. No, you have a whole platform to educate the coaches to have you always available for them if they in need, in the case they needed to go and talk to you about a specific test for a specific athlete.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy you mentioned that because that is my goal is to support coaches, clinics, like even all the clinics out there that do hormone, that do all this stuff, they should be, looking at this. And that's my goal is to empower coaches and practitioners, clinics, trainers, all those people with just a little more information about what they're doing. And yeah, we definitely don't want to be going to end user for everybody. I mean, we will, but I mean, ideally, we want the coaches, and that's why I was bringing up Dr. Jim Bell, is that's what I wanted everyone to learn, is all the new coaches coming in to be personal trainers, what they can do to just have a little more insight about how they're designing a fitness program, like the ligament and tendon strength, and is this person at high risk for injury, and things like that. So that's where, yeah, thank you again, Amanda, for mentioning that, because it's really important to know that that's really my goal, is to make everyone good at this DNA as I am, because I was just a little town girl that owned a gym that was just a trainer too. And I feel very confident in when I'm providing the information to an end user for long term health. Like I feel like I've been able to help a lot of people more than their doctor can even help them, because they just miss over a lot of this information. And we're in the era now where people are really starting to understand the power of food and vitamins and everything else that is just so important to get the insights of the individual. Like everyone says, oh, I read this study or that study. I'm like, who cares about the studies, you guys? Like, study yourself first and then go look at those things. Like, I mean, like this, you could read as many studies as you want. It might not apply to you.
That is so true. That is so true. It's like me trying to read about the ketogenic diet and how amazing it is for your body. And then here I am trying to compete and doing all the things that I want to do, be successful. And I'm not gaining a pound of muscle because I'm just shooting myself in the foot.
Yeah, and that's such a good example you just brought up, because even if you didn't know your DNA, even now, you probably would still be guessing, should I do a little keto? Shouldn't I? Even though
But that's exactly what I said. I do exactly what Dom told me to do. And I was amazed to see the difference and improvements that he was able to give me. Deep inside of myself, I was still like, maybe if we push a little bit, some extra low carbs there, I'll get a little, more conditioned. But then I see that it's quite opposite. The more we push low carb, it does not necessarily mean conditioning for me.
well, and look at, you're running the clinic, you have all these clients, you're training your butt off, you're doing podcasts late at night, you're doing all this stuff, you have personal life, and you're just like hammering on all these positions now. And I think that that's the key, is if you were maybe doing the keto like you were, 'cause when we first met, you were doing keto, and I was,
Carmen,
nobody.
I was 128 pounds when I first competed. I was last year that I got second in Chicago out of like 33 girls. I was 153
Yeah, that's
on stage.
amazing. Amazing. And let's look at this now, though. Okay. So you and I are like the same kind of size, kind of, and we've been competing a long time. But my diet actually is totally different than yours. I actually gained size from keto. Like I gained weight on keto. And like, so we're like, like if we were roommates, we would be like trying to do each other's plan. And if we had the same coach, we'd be doing each other's plan, doing the wrong things. And so here we are, like very competitive, very like smart at what we do, very experienced, but yet you don't have to question your diet anymore. I don't question my diet, and we're both making the gains that we need to make. And it's kind of funny because like we were opposite back then. I was doing more carbs and all that and struggling, and you were doing my diet. And now it's went like this, and we're doing way better.
That is amazing. That's amazing. I love that, and I really hope that everybody listening can really understand the power of knowing your DNA, and it's just a life changer, and more than just, again, we're talking with a demographic that really loves bodybuilding, but more than that, I think there are a lot of bodybuilders out there now that are seeing life differently because they're having kids. You have Siban who have a kid now, and you have other top people out there that are still competing and they have kids. So I think that if we ask the 20-year-old them back in the day what really matters, they would say bodybuilding all the way. But now they would be like, hey, if I can compete one more year, but if I can stay here for my child and my family, I'll take that any day.
Hmm.
So I think that's the difference too, is that there are a lot of athletes right now really seeing the longevity outside bodybuilding and still potentially be very much, I mean, think of Jay Cutler, right? I see him quite often because of the clinic and he lives here in Vegas too, but he's very much part of the industry and he is somebody that he's very much, he hasn't competed for so long, but I know firsthand that if he knew of the DNA test back in the day, he would be the first one to do it
Hmm.
because I know his ex-wife works with us, Carrie Cutler, and she told me that he has always been very scared. He's not the kind of the bodybuilder that is like, oh, I don't want to know because, no, he's always wants to know. He would be doing his blood pressure and asking questions and saying like, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? Because but that's huge to see somebody as big as he is, meaning and personality and name, to be somebody so proactive. Now it makes sense that he was so proactive when he was an active athlete, and he's still very proactive. He's still active now, proactive and active in an industry and doing a challenge at God knows, I don't know how old he is, but he just did a challenge and got shredded for his
Yeah.
birthday.
I know. I watched him on social media. Yeah, it's amazing. And even guys like Ronnie Coleman, like I think about that, I would just die to know his DNA. I would, if he's watching this podcast, I'd be like, reach out because I want to know, like, just to see, like, I'm so curious. Like, did it really in line? Could he have done even better than he did? Like, that's like, what could have been different? And it's just I'm so curious to see some of these guys' DNA, and yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyways,
Absolutely. But even if, like I think that anybody who is watching, if anybody out there has anybody that they can think about, just please share this podcast. I want all of you guys to do the test, but I want you guys to also share this as much as you can because we can potentially save a lot of lives and time and money and energy.
yeah, just think about all the. Do you know that I read a stat a long time ago, so it's not accurate anymore. This is years ago, but I remember a stat that said that the average woman has done over 168 diets by the age of 55, and she still is wondering what to eat.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna keep that one in my head.
Yeah, we'll have to update because that stat I read so many years ago, so I bet it's even more now. But
More now.
yeah,
But Carmen, it has been a pleasure. I tended to cut this in about an hour because then we give a little bit of our listeners just amount of time to do cardio.
yes, yeah, very good.
But I want to continue and hopefully we're going to have a lot of feedback. We are recording today on Wednesday, but I'm going to actually put it live on Saturdays because I see a little bit more of a traffic there on Saturdays. And yeah, and then we're keeping touch and hopefully we're going to get a good feedback from everybody. Absolutely. Thank you, Carmen. Have a good night. Bye bye.